Bye. Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to AM News and Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Ramsey Enoch Agbo. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times 276. President Bola Tinubu has reiterated the determination of his administration to continue strengthening National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, in its fight against illicit drugs. The president, who was represented by the National Security Advisor, Malam Nuhu Ribadu, stated this at the commissioning of a new operational vehicle for the agency in Abuja. Here is Kikelomo Okere's report.
At the NDLEA headquarters in Abuja, 48 brand new operational vehicles, 38 SUVs and 10 sedan were handed over to zonal, state and strategic commands across the country. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who was represented by the National Security Advisor Nuhu Ribadu, says the vehicle marks another step in government resolve to boost the agency's capacity and keep drug cartel on the run.
These vehicles will serve as critical enablers, facilitating rapid deployment, improving logistics, enhancing command and control, and ensuring timely response to hotspots.
NDLEA Chairman Brigadier General Mohammed Buba Marwa retired says the agency has recorded major breakthrough in the past 2 years, including the arrest of over 40,000 drug offenders, seizures of more than 5.5 million kilograms of illicit substance, destruction of over 700 acres of cannabis farm, and conviction of nearly 8,700 traffickers.
The procurement of these vehicles was made possible by the fiscal backing of this administration, which continues to demonstrate strong resolve in addressing the root causes of insecurity and social dislocation.
Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Lateef Fagbemi, SAN, also lauded Tinubu's support, stressing the strong link between drug trafficking and violent crimes. He praised Marwa's leadership and moral boost given to NDLEA personnel.
So I'm happy about what you are doing and the morale of the staff you are boosting. It is very important. If there is no morale booster, you can't get anything done.
The Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, described the new vehicles as a boost to NDLEA's operational capability, while the Director General of Bureau of Public Procurement, Dr. Adebowale Adedokun, commended the agency for adhering to due process in procurement.
It is my firm belief that this investment will translate to greater deterrence to those who seek to profit from this destructive trade.
The vehicles you see today were thoroughly gone through due process. In fact, I'm bold to say NDLEA for me is an example for other agencies of government.
The event ended with decoration of 15 newly promoted commanders to the rank of Assistant Commander General of Narcotics. Kikelomo Okere, Global Television News.
President Bola Tinubu says Nigeria has no reason to be poor, reiterating his administration's commitment to promoting the growth of micro, small and medium enterprise, that is, MSMEs in the country. Tinubu made the statement at the 8th Expanded National Micro, Small and Medium Enterprise Clinic in Calabar, Cross River State Capital, where he was represented by Vice President Kashim Shettima. Tinubu said the country has boundless human and natural resources at its disposal, noting that upon assumption of office, his government guaranteed access to capital and pledged to support ventures that would redefine the future of work, skills and industry. The federal government has reaffirmed its commitments to making Barrow River Port in Niger State fully operational by transforming it into a vibrant inland gateway for trade and economic growth. Minister of Marine and Blue Economy Adegboyega Oyetola gave the assurance at the House of Representatives ad hoc committee session on the challenges and prospects of the port. Aniete Patrick reports that funding, dredging, and critical and rail linkage remain top priority for the project's revival.
Commissioned in 2019 but plagued by operational setbacks, the Barrow Port has struggled to serve its intended purpose largely due to inadequate supporting infrastructure and navigability challenges along the River Niger. Minister Oyetola says the government is now rolling out measures to address these gaps, including capital dredging of over 2,000 kilometers of inland waterways, developing road and rail connections, and attracting credible private sector investors through concessions.
Part of what we try to do is to ensure the need to do a lot of dredging. Unfortunately, we are hampered by the scarcity of funds. NIWA was supposed to dredge about 2,000 kilometers of dredging, but in terms of fund requirements, that will run to billions of naira.
Also speaking, the Managing Director of the National Inland Waterways Authority, Bola Oyebaniji, and the Minister of Transportation, Saidu Alkali, both acknowledged funding as a major hurdle, but expressed optimism that with legislative support, Barrow Port could soon boost Nigeria's trade competitiveness under the African Continental Free Trade Area.
Our ongoing efforts to enhance Barrow Port operations. As part of the authority's efforts to improve the navigability of the lower and upper River Niger, which serve as the main waterways access to Barrow Port, the authority has executed the underlisted projects.
The House Committee says it will undertake an on-the-spot assessment of the port this Saturday as part of efforts to fast-track its full operationalization.
Bring their thinking cap to see how they can not be taken out of the project. So I think we also need to broaden our horizon when we are approaching these things. If we limit our thinking to just the budgetary provisions, most of these projects will never get done. They will never see the light of the day.
Barrow Port, first established in 1908, is strategically positioned to connect agricultural value chains and ease pressure on the nation's highway, a dream the federal government says is.
The federal government says it has plans to inaugurate the National Building Code Advisory Committee later this month to address the issues of building collapses in the country. The Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Ahmed Dangiwa, represented by the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry, Shaibu Bagure, disclosed this at the National Building Safety and Structural Integrity Initiative organized by the Federal Ministry of Housing and Urban Development in collaboration with the Lagos State Government through the Ministry of Physical Planning and Urban Development at Tafawa Balewa Square in Lagos. The National Orientation Agency has launched a 2-week nationwide enlightenment campaign aimed at deepening citizens' understanding of government policies, strengthening national values, enhancing security awareness, and promoting the Nigerian identity. Director General of the agency, Lanre Issa Onilu, said that the initiative is expected to reach all 36 states, the Federal Capital Territory, and the 774 local government areas of the country. Aniete Patrick has more.
Flagging of the campaign in Abuja, the Director General of National Orientation Agency, Lanre Issa Onilu, says the drive is a coordinated national awakening designed to address pressing gaps in public awareness, harmful practices, and misinformation that threaten national unity and progress. According to him, the program will run on 5 thematic areas, namely the National Enlightenment on Government Policies, Flood Mitigation and Disaster Preparedness Drive, amongst others.
It is commencing by Wednesday next week.
and it will last for 15 days. And we are focusing on 5 thematic areas. We are conducting a national enlightenment on government policies, programs, and activities. 2, flood mitigation and disaster preparedness. 3, national security awareness.
That the national security awareness will mobilize citizens to play active roles in safeguarding their communities by reporting suspicious activities and cooperating with security agencies. He says the Nigerian Identity Project will revive respect for national symbols.
Nigerian Identity Project and the National Symbols Campaign, which are part of our flagship program of the Nigerian Identity Project, the National Values Charter. We are saying this is not just a campaign, it is a coordinated national awakening that touches the very heart of our identity, safety, values, and development.
However, the campaign will be implemented through press conferences, community dialogues, market and schools outreaches, religious and civic gatherings, as well as multilingual media messages on radio, television, and social media.
Benue State government has intensified security in parts of Ukun local government area by deploying security personnel to 3 communities to enhance security measures. The communities are Chito, Afia, and Moody. The move comes after urgent appeal from residents and local authorities to the federal and state government for intervention following years of violent attack by armed men suspected to be herdsmen. Benue State correspondent Felicity Ndere reports.
Ukun local government and other areas of Benue State, Nigerians' food baskets have accounted for high percentage of yam production and other food supplies until armed herders invasion and banditry became the order of the day, leaving the industrious people independent and helpless. Today, the scars of conflict remain fresh, with at least 15 settlements in Ukun local government counting to bear the brunt of sustained attacks. With the uncertainty, the joint military operations of the Operation Wildstroke has intensified operations in the Axis, resulting in the recent rescuing of 11 kidnapped victims. A move appreciated by the people, including the council chairman, Jonathan Modi, who led the military team on its strategic assessment tour in the area to public infrastructures destroyed as a result of attacks.
As you can see, yesterday we deployed in Afia, which happens to be the current senator's village. The people have been crying, and even if you go to that place, you will see lots of people there, but they live in fear. They live in fear. People are scared, and they are being attacked on market days.
Residents in the area have promised greater cooperation with the security personnel to enable them to succeed, express strong desire to live normal lives again, where their safety is assured and essential services restored.
Without security, whatever project you have done will be useless. Even if you build schools, build roads, build hospitals, provide water, electricity, and there's no security, there will nobody to benefit from those amenities. And so, with the presence of security at Afia today, we believe that all our markets that are no longer functioning will come back to life.
The development of security operatives is part of renewed efforts to eliminate criminal elements to strengthen peace and security of most communities in Sankara Axis of the state affected by insecurity. In the meantime, stakeholders have called for a coordinated national and state effort to restore stability, rebuild lives shattered by years of violence, and help affected communities regain dignity. In Makurdi, Felicity Ndere reporting for Global TV News.
Zamfara State Governor Dawood Lawal has pledged the government's continued support to initiate the promote women's participation in digital economy. He made this known while declaring open a 4-day digital skills training for 100 women in Gusau, organized by the Nigerian Communications Commission. Zarau Nasir has details.
Digital literacy is transforming lives around the world, and Nigerian women are being encouraged to take advantage of it to enhance their businesses, education, and access to services. Zamfara State Governor Dauda Lawal, who was represented by his deputy, Mani Mumini, urged women to break barriers and equip themselves with digital skills to self-reliance. He flexed the state commitment to continue to support initiatives that align with President Bola Tinubu's vision to grow Nigeria's digital economy.
I want that the partnership will help immensely in bringing the digital divide and opening opportunities for our women.
The Executive Vice Chairman of the Nigerian Communication Commission, Dr. Aminu Maidari, represented by the head of the Kano Zonal Office, Abubakar Gurfi, and the Zamfara Information Technology and Development Agency, Habib Gatam, reaffirmed the state's commitment to empowering women through ICT. They noted that the training aims to equip women with relevant digital skills to boost self-reliance, improve businesses, and enhance access to online opportunities.
Skills training for women is one of the Nigerian Communications Commission NCC's key initiatives designed to equip women like you with knowledge, confidence, and tools they needed to grow, compete, and succeed.
Training you will undergo today is to ensure that you become self-sufficient. You do not have to rely on government, and to ensure that you gain visibility within the social media space in whatever business that you do.
Earlier, the head of the Nigerian Communications Commission, Digital Skills Department, Hawa Wakil, revealed that less than 20% of women in Nigeria currently subscribe to digital services, urging participants to take advantage of the fourth industrial revolution.
Not just operating in the cyberspace, you also have to know how to protect yourself. There are hawks and hackers there.
At the end of the training, each participant will receive a smartphone and a 100,000 naira cash allowance from the state government to support their digital journey. Zahra Nasr, reporting for Global TV News.
You're watching the live broadcast of the AM News on Global Television. The AM News returns after this break. Welcome back from that break. Now let's take you to the world of business, where the federal government has indicated plans to revive all moribund steel companies in the country. More than 2 decades after a failed privatization drive left once thriving plants across Nigeria in ruins, President Bola Tinubu reviewed the plan at the inaugural National Steel Stakeholders Summit on the development of the steel sector in Abuja. Represented by Vice President Kashim Shettima, the president noted that the collapse of the steel industry forced the country to depend heavily on imports. The Federal Inland Revenue Service and the Nigerian Customs Service have stepped up collaboration on the National Single Window Project, a landmark trade facilitation initiative expected to transform Nigeria's import and export processes, improve revenue collection, and enhance the country's competitiveness in global trade. At a meeting held in Abuja, top officials from both agencies reviewed ongoing preparation for the project's implementation and agreed on practical steps to accelerate systems integration ahead of its planned takeoff in the first quarter of 2026. The federal government has reaffirmed its commitments to ensuring steady gas supply from Nigeria to Togo, Benin Republic, and Ghana in a bid to tackle energy poverty and promote economic prosperity in the West African sub-region. The Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Gas, Akpirikpe Ekpo said this in Abuja during a meeting with the outgoing and incoming managing directors of the West African Gas Pipeline Company. Operations at oil mining lease OML 18 in Rivers State have ground to a halt following industrial action by the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria. In a strike directive issued by the association in Port Harcourt, Zonal Assistant General Secretary Sere Ntakibe stated that members are ordered to withdraw their services immediately until their demands are met. And on the foreign scene, following a video conference between United States President Donald Trump and the leader of Germany, Finland, France, the United Kingdom, Italy, Poland, and the European Union, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says his country must be included in the peace talk regarding the Russia-Ukraine war. The discussion focused on the war between the two countries, with Russia counterpart Vladimir Putin scheduled to hold in Alaska on Friday. Ukraine hopes the meeting will serve as an European counterweight to the summit in Alaska, to which Kyiv is not invited. Egypt says it is stepping up effort with Qatar and the United States to revive a U.S.-backed ceasefire proposal aimed at ending the fighting in Gaza. At a brief briefing in Cairo, Egypt Foreign Minister Badr al-Dati confirmed talks are ongoing with both Hamas and Israel. Correspondent Mukhtar Qasim reports.
Egypt is mounting a fresh diplomatic push to secure a 60-day truce in Gaza. The proposal would see the release of hostages and Palestinian detainees, as well as unimpeded delivery of humanitarian aid. Egyptian Foreign Minister Badr Abdel-Lati told reporters that the priority is to halt the fighting immediately and restore humanitarian access, returning to the plan already on the table.
Now, and we are talking with the Hamas, with the Israelis, and we're still pushing for a deal, based on Witkov proposal in order to move forward, of course we are categorically opposing any kind of intention of expansion of military intervention in Gaza.
A Hamas delegation led by senior official Khalil al-Hayya is in Cairo for high-level talks. Mediators hope to bridge the gaps that have stalled previous negotiations, even as Israel signals preparations for an offensive into Gaza City. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is now prioritizing the return of all remaining hostages in a single deal, a move that has raised both optimism and concern. With diplomatic urgency mounting and a limited window before new military action, Cairo's effort could prove decisive. But as humanitarian needs grow and battlefield tensions rise, the path to a ceasefire remains narrow and uncertainty. Mukhtar Qasim, reporting for Global Television News.
Now to the world of sport. The Nigerian Football Federation has thrown its weight behind the maiden edition of the Sam Okwaraji Under-16 Annual All-Secondary School Secret Championship, set to kick off on November 8, 2025. The technical director at the Nigerian Football Federation, Austin Eguavom, said this while addressing journalists in Abuja. Global TV correspondent Samuel Odi has details.
The technical director of Nigerian Football Federation, Augustine Eguavo, described the competition as a vital platform to discover and nurture grassroots football talents, while also keeping alive the memory of one of Nigeria's most iconic sports heroes.
On behalf of my colleagues who are far away from here, because I spoke with a couple of them this month before coming, we endorse this, and we approached it with all our heart, and make sure we're also going to be in the venues. Okay, if we can make that possible, so that we can, pick talents, harness, and develop them to become like Okwaji was in the past.
The chairman of the organizing committee, Osita Izunaso, says the chairman of the organizing committee, Osita Izunaso, says the championship will bring together promising young players from 36 states and the FCT, with matches holding at designated centers nationwide before a grand finale at a venue to be announced.
You will recall that exactly about this time, 36 years ago, we lost an icon, a rare gem, a patriot, a believer in Nigerian project, while playing for their country during a World Cup qualifier against Angola. It was indeed a dark day for our country and the continent. At this point, it is my pleasure to request us to stand and also observe a 1-minute silence in his honor.
Let us stand, please. 1 minute silence to read Samuel.
We gather to officially announce the commencement of Sam Okwaraji Under-16 Championship.
The tournament will also feature mentorship sections, career development workshop, and also honor Sam Okwaraji, who tragically died during a 1990 FIFA World Cup qualifier against Angola in Lagos on August 12, 1989. Samuel Odi reporting for Global Television News.
That's it on Global TV AF News. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. Kindly follow us across all social media platforms now showing on your screen using at Global TV NG. I am Ramsey Enoch Agbo. Thank you for watching.
A great Thursday this. Thank you everyone for joining us here on Global Morning. I'm Uyi Agmofogbe saying, as always, we're grateful for your time with us. My colleague, the interventionist, again, is here today. Hopefully you get to see more of him in the next few days on Global Morning. We can't be so sure because a few other things may just call his name, and you know how it works around here. All right, Ramsey Enoch Agbo is a delight to be sharing this platform with you. I don't know, somewhere off the top of my head, I'm feeling this is the last of you on Global Morning until maybe some extended period again, apart from maybe on the platform.
Well, a lot of other assignments are calling, right. And I think we are on duty, so always answer to the calls. So as a matter of fact, just like we have said, it's a beautiful day, and of course, this is Global Morning. And so much is expected when it comes to Global Morning, right. And at least everyone who is on Global Morning today, we are ready to help you get your day started on a beautiful note. So many things happening around, but then as you keep tab on Global Morning today and just stay very close to your television, you get to see the things as they unfold one after the other. Once again, good morning, everyone.
The weather looks so great in Abuja, Nigeria's capital, this morning. The other day, Ramsey and I talked extensively about rain, the elements, and how that you need to be prepared every day for them. But today, well, a little different. 23 degrees in Abuja, essentially cloudy with the chance, yes, likelihood of rain at about 2 p.m. West African time today. Let's see how that turns out. The whole idea is to give you heads up so you prepare for your day, because come on, there's just so much you can do to take control. All right, but speaking of taking control, maybe that was essentially what again the Federal Executive Council was doing yesterday when it's directed that all ministers, all of them, no exemptions, should submit a comprehensive list of their projects to the Bureau for Public Procurement for scrutiny. Some people will say, well, the president, Bola Tinubu, is up to something. He's got a plan up his sleeves. But others will say, well, it's only natural. After all, they are public servants on a level, in a sense. There should be a bit of accountability. And for public stewardship, it's only natural that there should be transparency as well.
I think beginning from when these ministers came into office, if we can walk back a little bit, you could remember how the screening started. Right. Some made it, others didn't make it. Unlike before, that everyone who comes before the Senate takes a bow. Right. And we are very sure of that. But then some persons couldn't make it. I think if I don't know anyone, I can still remember that of the minister, former minister of FCT, the past governor of Kaduna State. Right. Then, this is not the first time. If you could remember, there was a time he asked his ministers to go on national TV and tell the people what they have been doing. Right. I think that is more like there is a handwriting on the wall. Every smart minister should know, should deduce from that statement that one day will come that any minister that is not working will be asked. Right. Some were asked, all right. Some that Nigerians were thinking should be asked, were not asked. Somebody told me categorically that the Minister of Power was supposed to be asked because of the issues we're having that period in the sector. Right. Then, coming now, after the FEC meeting yesterday, that issue is still coming up in a different light this time, asking ministers to submit each project, whatever project they have in hand doing or that they've done, to the Bureau of Statistics to look into it. I think for me, it's a welcome development. They need to rise to the occasion. The question is, what if you don't have any projects going? Or maybe, as it's been said, if all the projects you've been proclaiming are just audio projects and the money already have gone down the drain, what's going to happen? So I think, like I always say, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu knows what he's doing. And at a point, you will be tempted to say, well, everyone working with him, apart from you being intelligent or being an ally, you also need to be smart and intelligent upping your game at every instance. So let's see how this unfolds. There is a saying, I think, that when the breeze blow, you know, a lot of things are being exposed, and let's see what will happen. I know some ministers already are running from pillar to pole, calling their advisors to say this or how do we do to cover all of this? What can we quickly put together? You'll soon start seeing coverts. Somebody will tell you, I made 3 coverts. And they say, what's a covert? A covert that farmers can do in the village. Just put something, you know, and they'll tell you this is a covert, and all of that. You'll soon start seeing some people being exposed. But then, I think, like we always say, accountability is very important. And if there is no responsibility and there is accountability, then we can say something is wrong. But when there is responsibility, there is need for accountability by all means. So, well, let's see what the ministers will submit. And I just want to wish everything is open to the media as the watchdog of the society, which the ministers are not exempted from, so that this thing can be touchlight to the latter, and we will see who is capable and who is not capable, who is working and who is not working.
It's interesting, Ramsey, the way you put it. It will look like, I mean, I would be surprised if the federal government would reach out to you for consultancy services in this regard and say, look,
who is at it again?
Help us straighten these things out. I mean, given this depth of expertise you're bringing on the table. But quite frankly, you know, procurement is very sensitive. More like a multifaceted sort of element, right? There's the political part of it, there's the financial part of it, there's the economic part of it, there's the social part of it. And then there's the part of it that is also ethical. In fact, when you look at the issue of procurement, I mean, you look at the trajectory of those who have been accused of financial crimes in this country. Former governors, serving governors, federal, states, legislators, even private business people. You realize that most of the fraud incidents come from procurement, all right? And that's why anti-graft experts will tell you that if you can get it right at the level of procurement, then your odds of being able to fight graft, or at least cut it to its barest, all right, are very high. Because that's where the whole, as we say in Nigeria, mago-mago and wuru-wuru happens, all right? That's where people get really smart. That's where people cut corners. That's where people either break or bend the rule, all right? That's where people try to circumvent the law, procurement, all right? I mean, talk to the FCC, for example. I mean, operatives from the FCC, people who specialize in fraud detection. They'll tell you that at the level of procurement, that's where the bulk of fraud and theft happens. So who knows, maybe the president and by extension the Federal Executive Council is using this as a basis to say, look, we're not only interested in the volume of projects you've been able to implement, the quality of each of those projects, we are also very invested in the process, the bidding and all of that, all right? Did it follow standard procedure? Did you subject it to the rules, all right? Because we understand how these things work, basically, all right? First of all, there should be bidding, all right? We've seen cases where politically exposed people have used companies, used business entities where they have interests to pursue or to procure or secure government contracts, all right? We've seen where public officers, those who have been appointed, in some cases even elected, using companies where they are still actively serving as directors, in some cases MDs, to procure or to secure government contracts. These are not just anomalies, these are crimes, and the law has never been clearer about these issues. So apparently, Ramsey, this is an unfolding development, but we do hope that, again, as we always say, there will be a measure of sincerity of purpose in this direction, and those who have flouted the rules, those who have overstepped their bounds, those who have circumvented the law will also be subjected, brought to the book, as they say. We just hope that book will be wide enough, and we hope it has enough pages, all right?
While you were talking about bidding, my mind went to when the few times I had opportunity to stand in for some bidding processes. By the time you hear name of some companies, you'll be asking yourself, can you say that name again? They are all bidding. What are we trying to say? Like you said, sometimes you see political office holders just do some kind of mago to bring in some kind of name, some kind of companies. Already, sometimes people go for bidding. The people getting the contract already know. So I am seeing this as maybe a platform to open up some things that a lot of Nigerians don't know. Contracts that we are given, the projects that you said it's ongoing, who is handling it? Who is in charge of the contract? I could still remember what Umahi did when he came into office, revoking contracts because a lot abandoned.
Right.
In some places, the consultants will just come and they don't even go to where the project is going on. You just meet in a hotel somewhere or maybe in one cool zone and people just exchange hands. They just do their signings and they will tell you the project has been done. Then you go to site and it's a different ball game altogether. So I think, like you've said, if all of this is being followed religiously, okay, the way it's supposed to be, a lot of things will be exposed. I think for me, it's a good move in the right direction.
We're taking a quick break, everyone. We have a newspaper review up ahead for you, but when we return shortly, we'll talk about how the federal government has now directed an embargo for 7 years on establishment of new universities. Now, for context, what that means is that the federal government is saying for the next 7 years, no establishment of new universities. What does that mean? Is the government probably saying, let's pay more attention to existing tertiary institutions as against bringing up new ones? Or is government also probably, who knows, saying that, look, we've gotten off on the wrong foot long enough. It's time to do a reversal and get back to the drawing board. Shortly, we'll bring you all of that conversation. Do stay with us. We're going to get right to the papers shortly, but before then, the federal government has now placed, an embargo, if you like, call it a moratorium, for a 7-year period on tertiary institutions, establishments of new tertiary institutions, universities, polytechnics, and colleges of education. And for many people, this is long overdue, but again, what can we say? Let's find consolation in the fact that it's better late than never. For some Nigerians, the argument is that we got off on the wrong footing getting to establish new universities over time. I mean, look at this country today. Between 2011 and now, we've established many more federal universities across this country that we can actually cater for. Look at the quality of these institutions. Look at their hostels, look at learning materials, the welfare of lecturers and things like that. For some people, what we are doing is placing the carts before the horse when it ought to be the other way around. Who knows? The government is probably saying it's time we reset and hit that reset button on priorities as far as education is concerned. The level of development of the country to a large extent is determined by the quality of education that its people get. So in the case of Nigeria, the rules are not different, the principles are exactly same. You are not in the academia, obviously, but what are your thoughts about these developments now, this directive from the federal government?
I think if there's any sector that needs urgent attention,
right,
one of it is the education sector. Why did I say so? Because the educational sector is not what it used to be.
Yeah.
I could remember back in the days, I will keep saying this, I had teachers coming from abroad to teach in Nigeria at the secondary level, not even visiting lecturers from Europe or other parts of the country. Yet, even at the secondary level, I had a few of them that were my teachers while we were in school. What happened? How did the narrative change? Look at the education sector today. Are you surprised that even though it's not a correct statement, some people are saying education is a scam? Because you get to school, you don't know when you're graduating. Then somebody who is in a private school have long graduated and have gotten a job, but strike action has held you down. What happened? Where's the problem coming from? Lecturers are begging to be paid. In some climb, these people are held at a very high esteem. And all of this boils down to how this educational sector is being prioritized. Because with this now, 7 years is a long time.
Right.
It's good enough for us to overhaul the system, if that's the intention. Number one, let's get to the drawing table. What's wrong? Where did we miss it? What has gone wrong? What do we need to do different? Because you can't be doing the same thing all the time and expect a different result. Now, have we sat down to ask questions? Why are people interested? Imagine a Nigerian going to Benin Republic to go and study.
And you're paying far more.
And you're paying far more. And they are ready to pay because on getting to school, you know when you're graduating.
Right.
So they are even ready to pay.
And when you study here for 4 years, over there is 3 years.
Over there is 3 years. So all of this put together, and the way people even look at the education sector these days, is it JAMB? Look at what has been happening. JAMB, I'm talking about JAMB.
Right.
JAMB, almighty JAMB that you know. You can see the mix-up from JAMB. Is it WAEC? See, this is because attention is not there.
Right.
So people in these places do whatever they feel like doing, and at the end of the day, it bounced back to parents, it bounced back to the society. And it keeps putting Nigeria on a bad light. How many times have you heard of Nigerians going out to win maybe very good, except for few? I heard of Destiny Christian Academy, how they came out their performance in WAEC, the top, in JAMB, they were the highest. Some of them were taken out of the country to go and represent Nigeria. Just a few private institutions can do that. What happened to our public schools? So it's a good one. If instead of us just having schools everywhere and they are not well managed, it's better to have a few who are maintaining standard, who have what it takes, the equipment, the wherewithal, the resources, the capable hands, qualified teachers, lecturers, you know, to keep this institution going. I think it's a good one. But then we shouldn't just suspend creation of institutions and just sit down, fold our hands.
So what are we going to do with that 7-year period?
7-year period.
Right.
What has been written down? What are the steps to be taken? I think it will be very important.
Well, there's no better way to put it, Ramsey. Thank you so very much. We're taking a quick break now, everyone. When we return, we'll bring you headlines from across our national newspapers. Do stay with us.
It's now time for us to take you through the national dailies and see what the major headlines are saying. Different headlines from different papers this morning. And we're getting started with the Punch newspaper. The Punch newspaper have some very punchy headlines, and the first one here is on page 14, where it says Obasanjo Library accuses EFCC of targeting ex-president, demands 3.5 billion naira damages. Tinubu orders FIRS Customs to review revenue deductions. 2025 budget, that's the kicker. Ministries in dilemma as Accountant General suspends fund request. By-elections, INEC deploys 7,726 BVAS machine in Edo, Anambra, and 10 other states. Well, yesterday we talked about electoral reform, and that's one topic that you can't stop talking about anytime soon. We'll keep talking about it until we get it right. And now to the big story on the Punch newspaper. PDP unveils zoning panel, dispels Jonathan Obi talks. Some riders to that story, just one here. PDP hides new aspirants. APC mocks opposition, predicts defeat for 2027 candidates. Now to the next story on the Punch newspaper. Fuel distribution controversy. Dangote restores marketers amid mounting pressure. Pilots split over Kwamwon's aviation ambassadorship. Well, that is one story that have brought a lot of confusion, and the Minister of Aviation have been defending, have been defending. In one of his statements, he said the reason in other climes is done same way, that deviants, most times are appointed as ambassadors to correct the same error, the same
that they made.
Error that they made, the same thing they will now start preaching against. So they are being made ambassadors in other climes, and that's the same thing that they have done. But then I can see that a lot of people are not quite okay with that. Then looking at it from the flip side, don't you think that will send some kind of negative signal to the people? Because in this climb, in our own climb, they feel people who are deviants, people who default, or people who behave in such ways should be reprimanded. But then reverse is the case. Even Comfort's case, as it is right now, has been reversed. Everything. I think she's about to be given an appointment or something. So many people are questioning. But then I think the authorities know better, and they are coming out to do clarifications. So they should make it more clear to the people. Now, still back to the Punch newspaper, where I'm going to be taking this last headline before we move to the next point of call, and it says Mahmuda terror group leader captured in Niger moved to Abuja. Mahmuda terror group leader captured in Niger moved to Abuja. All right, that's the size of the headlines from the Punch newspaper.
All right, so we have next here the Punch Sports Extra. As expected, so much of sports-specific headlines on the front page of it. All right, but we'll begin with the big one here. It says a super team, Parisians edge Spurs in penalty shootouts to win Super Cup. Then a top left corner, Inter hopeful of Lookman deal. You know, Lookman has been in the news for very controversial reasons the last couple of days in particular. Next to that is one young lady making Nigeria proud. I'm also confirmed for Lucerne Diamond League. All right, Shell under fire after Sudan rout. That was a 4-0 loss. It was quite a blow, no doubt about that, even though the Sudanese coach said he never expected that sort of outcome, even though he had hoped for victory nonetheless. Osimhen back in gala training. That's established now. Osimhen and the Galatasaray move, and Napoli is behind him now as it stands. All right. Chelsea hunt for new centre back, and lastly here at the bottom of it says NCAA final, my biggest athletics miss. Ajayi. Well, those are the headlines from the Punch Extra this morning. Ramsey will walk us through the headlines from the Nigerian News Direct.
All right, let's quickly get to the Nigerian News Direct, where we have some very wonderful headlines. 2 years after Oni, Mini Idris, Omotoso, others hail News Direct founder at Remembrance Book Launch. Senate stalls action on Senator Natasha's recall awaits certified judgment. And this one says NDPC finds multi-choice 766.2 million naira over illegal cross-border data transfer. NDLEA uncovers cocaine in lipsticks, sees $17.7 million fake travelers checks. That's a serious matter. These people are upping their game on a daily. Sometimes it amazes me how NDLEA get to know that these things are being hidden. Imagine in a lipstick, cocaine being hidden in lipstick. Well, I think kudos to NDLEA right there. Then this one says NDDC holds 25th anniversary Thanksgiving as Governor Aidatiwa louds achievements. Fidelity Bank launches solar-powered bags for school children, donates 1,000 bags for Ogun pupils. And now to the big story on the Nigerian News Direct, where the kicker says 2027 Coalition of Hunger, Not Rescue. Wiki blast Obi, Atiku, Aregbesola, other ADC leaders. Some writers to that story, and the first writer says accuses coalition leaders of selfish politics, failed leadership legacy. Says Peter Obi's time has passed. And then the last writer says Labour Party coalition with ADC, not anti-party. Obi is the one saying that, even though they said his time has passed. All right, that's the size of the headlines from the Nigerian News Direct this morning.
All right, I take you to the Vanguard now. Let's begin with the headline right above the nameplates on the Vanguard newspaper. It says fuel consumption dropped 16% to 1.44 billion liters in June. That's according to the NMDPRA, the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority. And then top right corner here, the headline tells us UK to deport foreign criminals immediately after sentencing. Tinubu departs Abuja on 2-nation visit. Reforms. Federal government targets 7% economic growth rates by 2027. And then the star headline here, Kwamwan Comfort Bob. Lawyers, aviation experts blast federal government. Several writers with that story that we think you should take a look at. Federal Executive Council orders ministers to forward lists of projects to BPP for scrutiny. What's more, FG declares 7-year moratorium on new varsities, polytechnics, colleges of education. Invasion. Obasanjo Library to sue EFCC demands 3.5 billion naira compensation. Drug war, while federal government will continue to strengthen NDLEA, and that's according to the National Security Advisor and the Attorney General of the Federation. We'll bring you a bit of sports now as we wrap it up on the Vanguard newspaper. Chan, Eagles need better coach. Sudan coach is the one to whom that is credited. So imagine Sudan coach saying that we need a better coach. I'm not sure Ramsey, being a sports anchor, feels very good about that.
Well, there have been a call for Chile's sack. But then I think since Chile came in, we've not had it too rosy. But then you can't blame it all on him, because there are so many factors that needs to be taken into consideration.
Including?
Is it magic? At what level were the Super Eagles, the Chan Eagles, before he took over? How much time have they had so far? All of these factors put together, and the fact that the Super Eagles, for instance, have had changes of coaches, different coaches, in a very short period of time. But notwithstanding, that defeat is an embarrassment to Chile and the country and the boys, because these are boys that are coming up. They are still looking, they are not professionals yet, but in their own right, they are professionals in their own right. But then, these are boys that should be very hungry, that should go for goals at all means. But then, with all of this happening, I don't think it's a welcome development. So, looking at this coming right here, I think it is worrisome. As a matter of fact, it is worrisome.
All right,
and you see, what do you think about this? This is a mind game. Sudan coach saying this, it's an insult.
Right. So the question
it's
is,
an insult.
How will the NFF react to this?
How will the NFF react? This is your opponents saying this,
giving you a piece of
advice. You just need to change this coach, Inobia.
Wow, that's
you know what it means. So,
that's depressing. But again, let's think about the solution instead. But that's what we'll leave it here on the Vanguard newspaper. Ramsey will bring us headlines from The Nation now.
All right, from The Nation's newspaper, let's quickly look at the headlines. Dare takes on Babachi Lawal, and one writer to that story, and the writer says he's an opportunist. All right, 2027, that's the kicker. Talks ongoing with Obi, says PDP. One writer to that story, we are for reconciliation. Let's stand by my ailing deputy, Taraba governor pleads. Government slashes revenue deductions by NNPCL, FRS, customs and others. Federal government freezes creation of new tertiary institution for 7 years. Details read on page 3. And on to the star story on The Nation's newspaper, and it says by-election contest hot up in Oyo, Ogun, Edo and Anambra State. One writer to that story, and it says candidates in last-minute scramble, I beg your pardon, for votes as campaign ends. And the last I will be taking right here says President for Japan, Brazil. All right, that's talking about the trip. FRS meets 2025 oil gas revenue target, says Chair. That's the size of the headlines from The Nation's newspaper this morning.
All right, the Daily Times is where we turn to next. Then here it says, adjacent, well, I should say above the nameplate, federal government embargoes establishment of new federal tertiary institutions. Then the big one, Reps probe federal government's 1.06 trillion naira NG Cares social intervention program. We'll take it down a little. Kwam1, Emerson, bad omen for aviation as stakeholders berate Kayamo. Nigeria hosts maiden African Chiefs of Defense Staff Summit. 2027, PDP denies Wayne Jonathan. Obi. Nigeria, Philippines deepen labor cooperation, protect migrant workers. And lastly, it says here, Africa's $250 billion pension funds key to closing oil gas financing gap. Again, that is subject to whether or not we are going to leverage it appropriately. A few more papers to go now, but it's time we turn to the Nigerian Tribune for you.
On the Nigerian Tribune this morning, let's quickly look at some of the headlines. Invasion. Obasanjo Library gives EFCC 7-day ultimatum. Demands 3.5 billion naira compensation. If you want to get the details of that, why the invasion, what happened during the invasion, and the aftermath of the invasion, you can pick a copy of the Nigerian Tribune. Then this one says Ibom air passenger Comfort Emanson regains freedom, may get ambassadorial role. Okay. Then this one is the big story, and it says LP, that is Labour Party, SDP, APC, PDP battle INEC over Saturday's by-election. Then some riders to that story. Commission, parties in war of worlds in Edo. Party signs a peace accord in Oyo, Adamawa. I am not afraid of being redeployed from Edo. Rec is the one saying that. SDP, Labour Party's fate hangs in the balance. We are in court. Abure LP is the one saying that. Details you can find on page 4 of the Nigerian Tribune. Ogun gives property owners 2 more weeks to present documents. My constituents living in fear. Benue Deputy Speaker raises alarm. That's the Deputy Speaker from one of the warring communities in Benue State. That was in our news bulletin this morning. Amnesty International, over 1,800 killed, hundreds missing in Southeast in 2 years. Then FEC places 7-year embargo on new tertiary institutions. Some riders to that story. Tinubu eyes a 7% economic growth rate by 2027. Direct review of FRS, customs, NNPC deductions. Details of this story you can find on page 3 and 5 of the Nigerian Tribune. And that's the size of the headlines from the Nigerian Tribune this morning.
Incidentally, that's what we're leaving it here with the newspaper review this morning. Please do read up details for yourself by all means. And remember that Global Television does not make any contribution whatsoever, including editorial, to these papers. We only bring you the headlines as published by their respective publishers. We'll take a quick break now. When we return, it will be time to join Ogochukwu Mobodo on Social Bars.
your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest. And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
morning to Global Morning Crew, and good morning to you, my viewers. I am Ogochukwu Mobinora. Today we'll be looking at what's buzzing on the internet. Actress Mona Lisa Chinda has lamented on high cost of electricity bills and also water bill. Actress Mona Lisa Chinda questions high electricity and water bill in Nigeria. The Nollywood star Mona Lisa Chinda has taken to Instagram to share her frustration over the high cost of basic amenities in Nigeria. Posting a photo of herself, the actress lamented how something as natural as light and water, which God freely provided, has now become unbearable expensive for its citizens. She also added and said, Lord, the light, which is electricity, in quotes, and water that you created, you gave to us freely, they are down here, charging us crazily for it. I mean, beyond crazy, she wrote. Mona Lisa then expressed concerns for Nigerians living below the poverty line, wondering how they are coping in the current situation. I must tell you that Nigerians are finding it very, very hard to cope in this current situation, especially those in Band A. I understand that the Band A were supposed to have lights, I think, at maximum 20 hours a day, but even some Band A's still complain, and again, the high cost of electricity bill, including water bill. Well, we're going straight to comments on social media to hear your thoughts, and the first comment here is coming from George Shamuli. And George Shamuli says, it's happening everywhere. Price of electric and gas are going through the roof. The next person is coming from, the next comment is coming from Dusky Dims, and Dusky Dims says, but do people pay water bills in Nigeria? Okay. Where in the world, or where in the country is this person? And the last but not the least comment says, yes, water is free from the sky, but it has to be channeled to houses with modern infrastructure and clean water safety. So it comes out the tap, safe for drinking. All that costs money, but what kind of salary are the CEOs of these companies earning? That is a big question. What, the money that they are earning compared to what the service they are giving, rendering to, the common man out there. And for the person who asked, is there a water bill in this country? I remember growing up, we used to have water board. When you pass through street, you see tap, and you can just open and drink fresh, clean water. But honestly, to be very honest with you, recent times I've not really seen taps on the streets, like taking clean water from the street and going away. And I think, and now it's time to ask, are these water boards really, are they still in place? Are they still working? I know some places in Abuja right now kind of have water board. They have their water supplied through water board, while others have really taken, the borehole thing has taken over so many persons because of the cost of this water board. Well, we'll be going right into the studio right now to ask some of us what we think about this discussion, and I must tell you, somebody's here right now to talk about this, and we'll go on a short break, and when we return, we'll definitely be discussing about this. Please stay with us. All right, welcome back. I have Uyu with me here in the studio, and Uyu, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Ogochukwu. Well, I tried to not say a word the whole time you were talking about the water rate thing. Somebody asking if we still pay for water in Nigeria. I think your response to that was quite apt, which is the fact. Water is free, I mean, naturally speaking. But then again, somebody has to put infrastructure in place, and then processing has to be done off the water, and apparently it gets channeled to homes for people to be able to access what we call potable water. So for that service you have to pay. But that also raises the question of how diligent, how committed have we been in terms of paying for water? People still struggle to pay for lights, I mean electricity, energy. So water is what people hardly even pay for. Some persons have not paid for water in 5 years. I mean, the facts are out there. But again, it has to do with the culture. It has to do with the fact that there needs to be a shift in where we think about these things. And then that brings us to Mona Lisa Chinda's point of how things have become so expensive and things like that. Of course, right from the day the first subsidy payment was suspended, or some people say removed. We see how the prices of essentials have jumped right through the roof. And you can't take away water, of course you can't take away light. Everywhere in the world, I mean practically in every country, every city across the globe, energy is expensive, all right? You can't take that away too. But the question is, do you get commensurate value considering the money that you pay for it? I guess that's the standpoint that she's maintaining.
Very well. Well, I'm going to deviate a bit from electricity tariff and also water bill, and I'm going to go into other tariffs. You know, we right now, I recall yesterday I was trying to use the ATM, and only for me to find out, it's been a long time I used the ATM actually going to the bank, only for me to find out that the bank charge is 107 naira to withdraw 10,000 naira. And I asked myself a question, and you know, it's only the only thing you are supposed to withdraw at that time is supposed to dispense just 10,000 naira per withdrawal. You can't do more than that, except you keep doing 10,000 naira. And just imagine if I was supposed to withdraw 50,000 naira and I go 10,000 naira 5 times, and I'm being like, the charge is 107 naira times 5.
Right.
I'm asking myself, is it okay? I asked the security man first of all. I said, when did this whole thing start? Because I really can't remember the last time I used the ATM. And he said that's CBN charge. And again, he also enlightened me that if you have to do transfer via your bank app or USD, you will be charged an amount, which I know of that. I think it used to be 75, 78 naira. I don't know if it's even more than that because I don't take notes. And again, the receiver is also going to be charged an amount. Then again, I recall that if you're even trying to use your USD, you'll be charged 6 naira before you start. This is away from the other charges, and it's really becoming too much. Are they trying to, is CBN trying to discourage people from using the internet, or are they trying to discourage us from using ATM machines?
All right, Ogochukwu, let's break this down real quick as much as time allows. First of all, we're seeing a bit of radical innovations, if you like, being introduced into these services. Let's begin with the USSD service that you talked about, the unstructured service, as they call it. So you want to use your USSD now. They charge you 6 naira 98 kobo. That's approximately 7 naira. So now my concern, which I'm sure, very sure that is the concern of many Nigerians who use that same service, is whether the service eventually goes through or not. In other words, whether that transaction succeeds or is successful or not, that money has been charged. Definitely. Now, there's a bit of history to that. Before now, it was your bank, all right, that would collect, or I mean, your banks will collect the money, all right, on behalf of the telecoms operators. In other words, banks will collect the money on behalf of these service providers, the telecoms guys. But then we had an issue where the telecoms guys now complained that the banks were not remitting to them, running into several billions. As a matter of fact, the records are there. The NCC, that's the Nigerian Communications Commission, had to wade in at a point to intervene in this matter. Long and short of the story, it was now resolved that the telecom service providers themselves, we collect their money from your balance. That is from your airtime balance. No longer the banks becoming the intermediary collecting these monies on behalf of the telecom service provider. So that's the reason you see that when you use star blah 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 hash, the first thing is they collect your 6 naira 98 kobo. So whether the service now fails going forward or not, it's a different kettle of fish altogether. That's number one. Then number two, like you said, when you go to your ATM terminal now to use your debit card, for example, you're charged the standard fee for using that service, especially if the ATM terminal is not of your own bank. Yes. And then there is now VAT, the value added tax, on it. I'm sure that's what the security man at your point of transaction was trying to explain to you. So it's quite a complicated process. And like Ogochukwu mentioned, at the end of the other person to whom you're sending that money, there's also a charge again that is debited from whatever you're sent to them. So in the end, it is more of confusion for the, if you like, the person who uses the service, as it is, as it's supposed to be, if you like, a blessing to them. So long and short of the story is we need to take a second look at this. CBN will have to do more of enlightenment for members of the public who use the service. Otherwise, it's just going to be natural that people will begin to see that they are being ripped off.
All right, thank you so much, Uyu, for your contribution to today's episode of Social Buzz. And you've heard from the public, and also you've heard from Mr. Uyu in the studio. And I know you have your own comment. Please drop it using the social media handles you're seeing right here on your screen and be part of this conversation. I am Ogochukwu Mobno. Do stay with us as Global Morning continues.
is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning. Thank you so very much, everyone, for staying with us. Now, let's turn to our first conversation for today, which has to do with the embargo that the federal government has now placed on the establishment of new tertiary institutions, now including universities, polytechnics, and colleges of education. To help us find some context and bit perspective into this discussion this morning, I'm joined by Emmanuel Ozwemina. He's a public policy consultant. Emmanuel, I'll say a big thank you to you for defying the odds to join us this morning on Global Morning. Let's begin first by looking at... Thank
you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure always. Let's look at the necessity of this. Good morning to you, Emmanuel. Okay, so I was going to say that the Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, is now telling Nigerians that, look, we don't have an issue with access, that what we're dealing with is not a challenge of access to tertiary education. Rather, we are confronted by dilapidated infrastructure, whether it has to do with the physical infrastructure or even issues around manpower. He has also talked about how that for Nigerian graduates, and indeed the quality of tertiary education in Nigeria to be valued and respected abroad, we must be able to address the fundamentals. Now, talk to us, please, about what those fundamentals are.
Thank you for this opportunity. To begin with, I think the government is acting very late in terms of in 1991-92. I remember Professor Wole Soyinka had given a suggestion that we need to shut down the Nigerian universities for 5 years or thereabouts to rebuild it for productivity and to be fit for purpose. And nobody listened to him. I mean, it was described in various steps by people who didn't understand what he meant. What Wole Soyinka meant at that time could have been, look, we have derailed from the purposes of the main purpose of setting up higher institutions. I mean, what is the philosophy behind education at that higher level, at that top level, universities, polytechnics, colleges of education, and what have you? So we lost that purpose, and that's the challenge with Nigeria as a country. To begin with, at the point where the Federal Executive Council placed a moratorium on new universities, which they say will be for 7 years. At that same meeting, they approved 9 new universities. That essentially shows lack of seriousness. In terms of consistency in policy process. That's one. Number two, the argument was around access, because every year you have an average of 2 million students or candidates sitting for the JAMB examination, and it's only 10% giving admission at the end of the year, of the day. So there was that challenge around assets, that you don't have enough place in the university. It means that for one admission you give, it means 9 other people stay at home for the next year, and next year new sets of people will join the queue. So to begin with, do we have enough universities in Nigeria? That should be the first question. At the moment, we have, let's look at the data. We have 298 universities, 219 colleges of education, as well as 295 polytechnics. So, I mean, if you look at that number, you will say it's huge. But you have a population of 235 million people. So you need to match the number of, existing higher institutions with the population. And you have a huge population growth. By 2050, Nigeria is going to be over 400 million. It will be the third largest country in the world. India will be leading, followed by China, and then Nigeria. Nigeria is going to replace or overtake United States of America. That is at the moment the third largest, globally in terms of population. So the planners of education are then looking into this future. 2050 is just how many years ahead from now? This is 2025. So in 25 years time, this will be Nigeria will be the third largest. So are we planning for the future? Are we thinking about the future? The challenge with the current educational system is at first, there was a little bit of politics that was brought into the education. What I call politics of higher education. It first started with the politics of ownership, where you had people who were, top level people in government, politicians and what have you, were given licenses to set up these private universities. To begin with, they didn't understand that these private universities are not refineries. They are not businesses. That's number one. So the essence of school, of higher education, were lost. Basically from that, because they saw themselves as investors. They saw a new line of business. They saw it as an oil block, and they got the licenses. Now, if you go to half of those schools, the charges are so high that they have low applications. 2-3 years ago, there was one of the, I saw an analysis by JAM. One of those private universities, I think somewhere in Northeast, they got about 6 applications. By students. They had only 6 applications by students that were applied to the university as their first choice. In fact, I think that year, apart from Covenant University that had about less than, I think they were leading in the private university, they had a little bit over 400 applications for that year. So this shows you that prospective candidates are moving away from applying to private universities. So that on its own shows you it's because of the fee, the cost element is so high. So if you have 2 billion people annually applying, and you have this number of federal universities, you have with 298 universities, let's look at the universities. So that means that a lot of people cannot afford the cost of these private universities because the owners, people who set them up in their mind, thought, look, this is an oil block I just got. I'm going to make a kill. So that's actually that's part of the problem. Then the next problem is we look at Harvard today. Harvard University is a private, is a non-for-profit university. What does Harvard do? Globally, it's highly rated and seen as one of the best in the world. Everybody wants to go to Harvard Business School. But what has sustained Harvard is actually endowments. Endowment from corporations, endowment from philanthropies, endowment all over the world. The budget budget of Harvard or the endowment profile of Harvard is such that if we compare to the budget of Federal Republic of Nigeria, that's Harvard University, one, not Princeton and Yale and what have you. These are universities, either private universities or universities owned by non-profits organizations. So we lost that sense of attaching the profits to owning universities. So that's why half of these owners of private universities, they are stopped. I mean, and they have done investment and they can't expand and they are not moving forward. It is only very few of them. I mean, if you see the level of advert they do, for instance, asking people to come and apply, that shows nobody is applying. Let's look at part of the federal government. Check in the last 10 years, for instance, I mean, beginning from 2015 till date, you have I think Jonathan set up one universities per geopolitical zone before by 2013-2014. So what has happened between 2015 and 2025 is that every member of the National Assembly sees establishment of higher institution in his constituency as a constituency project. If you go to the National Assembly now, there are a lot of bills, pending bills on establishment of new federal institutions, either a college of education, either a university, or either a polytechnic in their constituency. So when you turn higher institution as part of a constituency project, in fact, I saw one of the, I think about a month ago, one of the honorable members had 2 universities to be established in his constituency, 2 universities and a college of education. And he's going to go see that bragging rights. But the question to ask, if you go to that place, can you pump up enough people that will apply? Because why do you even spread this university?
I'm going to, Emmanuel, I'm going to have to, pardon me for a second. I'm going to have to interrupt you real quick. Yes, I want us to look at what has happened yesterday. This moratorium that the Federal Executive Council placed on establishment of new universities. Like you were saying, there's obviously a measure of policy inconsistency. Now, I'd like to ask you this. I mean, having announced this kind of embargo, for example, if we wanted to show that we're committed as a government, what should we have done following this pronouncement? Emmanuel, are you still there? Or I'm sure we're having a bit of network glitch there. We'll take a quick break, everyone. We'll return shortly with the rest of this conversation. Please stay with us. Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a
Well, thank you so very much, everyone. So, Emmanuel, again, I was just going to ask you, the pronouncement has been made, the moratorium is in place. By way of creating, for want of better words, policy guardrails, what would you have expected the federal government to have done in this regard through the Federal Ministry of Education?
So the first thing I think should happen is, first, if you place a moratorium, the next should be, and we do an audit of the of the higher education environment in Nigeria. If we do that audits, if you like, you could call it diagnostics. Now the question is that what could be the trigger that 2 million people will apply and have enough space and they are not there? I mean, that's the first question. What do we need to change? I think the centralized admission system should be abolished going forward. If you abolish it, one of the things it's going to do is it would free that asset, because when JAMB was set up in 1978, we have had the first generation of universities and the second generation of universities. The first generation were Ibadan, 1948, Nsukka, 1957, but it took off in 1960, and then in 1961, 62, 63, you had Lagos, you had Ife, Lagos, and ABU. So by 1970, University of Benin joined, and so you had basically about 5 universities or so. By 1975 to 78, a second generation of universities came up. Jos, Calabar, Port Harcourt, Bayero, and what have you. So by 1986, thereabout, we had about 16 universities. Coupled, okay, you had the state university, Bende State University had, Imo had, and River State had some states. So the problem was access at that point in time, and you needed to regulate that admission. But I think one of the most effective way to manage this process going forward, because the market, I listened to the minister, he said, look, some universities had less than 100. About 199 universities, they have less than 100 applications by prospective students. So if you go there, it means nobody chooses them as a first choice. So what you might do is take out JAMB. You don't need a centralized admission system. But what you need to do, you could have a process of ensuring standard. NUC is there to ensure that standard. In terms of the people we are going to admit, are they qualified to be there? You could sort it out by NUC.
Right. Okay, Emmanuel, are you still there? Hopefully we didn't lose track of Emmanuel right there. But again, we take another break now. He was making a point a while ago about auditing the university system, and he did a bit of a throwback to the 1950s when we had, 1948 when we had University of Ibadan, and the others followed, including Ife, Lagos, Jos, Kaduna, and then of course the others from the second generation, University of Benin and Co, and then state universities as well. All right, so I will talk a little more after this. Please stay with us.
So we need to take out JAMB. If we take out JAMB, it's going to help us in terms of sorting out that process. Beginning it, putting it back to fit how it was. Because if you invest, say for instance, a private university in Kano is doing their process, they can do their campaign, they can attract their students. So what you're going to do, you're going to spread this asset. People around Kano, people around Jigawa could say, oh, it's closer home and all that, so I don't need to travel all the way to Ibadan, or all the way to Sokoto, or all the way to Kaduna to attend school. Because that's the idea. If you go to the US now, they have over 5,000 universities and what they call community colleges everywhere. So people go closer home, closer to where they live, and it has a way of creating that asset. So we need to think about that. Then we also need to think about the federal universities we've created. They are huge. how do we administer them? For instance, in some states where you have, some state governments, I know about a particular state government in the south that set up, I think a particular governor under his tenure said about 4 new universities. And someone working there told me, look, there are no infrastructures, there are no money, there's no funding. So politics, the man set it up in 4 and now those schools are not functional. What you might do, you could make them. When you make, what it means, you reduce the administrative cost of managing that school. But what it means, each of them becomes a campus. I mean, in the US, you have University of Texas, Dallas, University of Texas, Houston. Because what it does is you lower the administrative cost, because the cost of managing each university as an independent institution is huge. Because each vice chancellor is like a governor. When you are appointed vice chancellor, you have appointed a new governor. So if you have established, say, in a state, you have 5 federal universities. I mean, that's an administrative cost. You could think about merging them, talk about the federal university, make the other whatever, pick a centralized one, and then the rest becomes a campus of those universities. Because in essence, what do universities do? Rather to do research, extend knowledge, and further service to humanity. So we need to look at what is the cost of managing this university. How can we make that cost to be something more effective? Think about merging them. I mean, universities that are closer to each other, it becomes a campus of that university. For me, that's another way of managing it. And then the managers of the education should also look at what is the cost content of what we teach. Do we teach things that would help us to improve as a society? In the 1800s in the United States, they have what they call land grant universities. Then they were looking at, look, if our population is growing, what do we need to do to ensure that universities becomes of service to the community? They set up what they call land grant universities. The federal government would provide some sort of support to states, provided support to states to be able to set up institutions that are focused on what they call A&T, agriculture and technology. And this sort of system helped in revolutionizing food production in the US. I mean, technology and what have you. So all over the United States, you have agriculture and technology universities, Texas A&T universities, and Louisiana A&T universities, and that helped to industrialize United States. So it is here a relationship between the universities and the community, because the university do research and commercialize it, give it to the industry. So we must begin to create that link. But what we have at the moment, first, is an unorganized system. Each university is there. I mean, the VC is behaving like a governor of a state. In fact, you could even say a president of a country, without providing the requisite service to the community. Universities that have mechanical engineering knows about the organizations, in the community that requires their services. I mean, that collaboration is not there. I mean, if you go to a state in the south, and you have about 5 universities there, how many of those 5 universities have some sort of a linkage or collaboration with the oil companies around there, with the industrial complexes around there that provide service to them? It doesn't exist. So that's another huge missing link, when universities just exist for themselves without,
let's ask you a final question now. Thank you so very much, Emmanuel. Let's ask you a final question now. This is a bit controversial, but I mean, we can live in denial all we want, but then again, it's always been there. Do you frankly think that, given the realities we're now dealing with within the education space, especially as it has to do with the tertiary education in this country that JAMB, the Joint Admissions and Matriculations Board, has overstayed its welcome?
Yeah, that's my honest view. JAMB came because you had fewer universities when it was set up in 1978. So now you are now battling with almost nearly 1,000 higher institutions. Do you still need JAMB? The answer is no. Take it off. That would free access. Universities will now go ahead to do thorough marketing. They now know it's a competitive process where they need to market themselves. I mean, if you are very observant, you will notice that universities in the UK come around here to market for students. In fact, I will ask you to come with your certificate and admission to you on the spot. So we need to make the environment competitive, because what JAMB has done is actually to limit the competitiveness of attracting these universities, attracting students. Universities should be free to campaign, to promote their products, to promote their services, and be able to attract students to choose them, as their first choice. Not having this what I call bottleneck called JAMB. You need to take it off. It has outlived its usefulness.
All right. Thank you so very much, Emmanuel Ozamena, public policy consultant, for joining us on Global Morning today. We appreciate you, and here is wishing you the best of the rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you. My pleasure.
All right, we'll leave it here, everyone. When we return, we'll turn to a kind of assessment. So what the federal government is now saying to ministers, asking them, all of them, to submit comprehensive list of all their projects to the Bureau of Public Procurement for scrutiny. Ramsey will be engaging a professor who has a handle on this conversation in a bit. Do stay with us. Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
What is your problem? What's your problem? We're on the road to protest. And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Welcome back from that first discussion. Now I want to go into the second discussion immediately, where we'll be looking at some matters arising from the FEC meeting. We just talked about that of the 7-year ban on new federal institutions in the country. Now let's look at that of the ministers. Do you know that before now, there is still belief that the moment you get into political office, you are all and all. You do whatever you want to do. Nobody supervises, nobody monitors what you do, and everyone just come, do what they want to do, you know, especially when it comes to procurement. That's one area that a lot of people can cut corners without notice. You know, you won't even notice it because they will do it very clean. But now, the FEC meeting that I had yesterday has it that ministers will now have to submit comprehensive list of projects in the respective agencies in parastatals under their supervision to the Bureau of Public Procurement. That's what we will be talking about today, and Global Television in-house analyst is right here, a public and political analyst, and also a security expert in the person of Professor Ibrahim Abubakar. It's good to have you join us on the program this morning, Prof.
You're welcome.
Let's quickly get to the discussion. What do you think about the fact that the FEC meeting that was held yesterday has directed ministers to submit comprehensive list of projects for scrutiny? What do you think about that?
Well, let me state my take here. It's a narrow way and a broad way. Narrow way, if we have started in such formations and if the Bureau for Public Procurement has been up and doing. But a very broad way because it's an extension of corruption empire. Before now, we have the Bureau for Public Procurement, and they have aided so many contractors. They sign off any figure. They do everything. All the processes pass through them. Yet there is inflated contracts, prices, and the rest. So what are they going to do differently this time? Because the ministers and the executives of these departments, ministry and agencies are still going to lobby them. They work hand in hand before now. So what is the difference from what it was before? Yeah, a very great idea. That is where we are supposed to start from. But it has been an existing agency, and we have never felt their impact. So what are they going to do differently? Because whether you are awarded a contract without they still sign it. They still look into the prices and the rest, and the contracts are always inflated. So there is nothing much, nothing different that this is going to do to people.
All right, but then we've not had something like this in the past. This is the about the first time we're hearing something like this.
That is why I said the narrow part and the broad part. I said it is a nice idea. This is where we are supposed to start from. But then you are bringing in an agency that is already corrupted to run the same process that you are starting.
That's a huge allegation, saying the Bureau for Procurement
they know the truth.
Is corrupt.
Maybe you don't know the runnings of the procurement.
Please let us know it. Let our audience know it.
Yeah, you don't know the Procurement Act. Any contract has always been awarded to go back to the procurement office to analyze and approve before that is done. So it is not a new thing. Now you are now extending that corruption to their table and said, you look into the corruption. You corrupt yourselves. I think that is what is happening now.
So the instruction is you corrupt yourself. That's what it means?
Yes, you are corrupt. You are corrupt already. Get more corrupted.
But then, don't you think that now that this instruction is coming, is going to make them sit up? And because this is beaming a light on the Bureau for Procurement.
The same directors, the same DG, the same office, the same people.
Probably different supervisors, external supervisors.
There is no external supervisor. They have not told us that these people has been changed. So
no, when I say external supervisor, Prof, I mean this is an assignment given to the Bureau. Don't you think there will be people to check how far they are doing with this assignment?
I'm telling you, they give you a job. You are doing that job. What they are only telling you now is that the ministers should come and lobby you, which give you more edge. The ministers never lobby you before. Now they are asking the ministers to come and lobby you, which give you more edge, which give you more power and authority.
How do you mean come and lobby you? Because this is an instruction. When you say lobby, what are you referring to? Because a lot of accusation on the Bureau for Public
now I used to submit directly my proposal, my budget proposal to Mr. President. I'm now going now to say these are the projects, my procurement projects that has to go through the Bureau for Public Procurement. And the Bureau of Public Procurement means that I am saying there should be a construction of borehole in so place. And the Bureau of Public Procurement said, why must it be so? Why not in my village? So I have to lobby the Bureau of Public Procurement, the directors and the DGs, the stakeholders there, to make sure they say what I want. This is the pricing. No, this one we can change it from 500 million to 1 billion. Don't worry.
But on the whole, let's look. Let's just look away from Bureau of Public Procurement for a little bit, even though they are the ones to do the scrutiny, because it is within their purview. Now, what do you think of the ministers, for instance, because this is not the first time. Before now, the president have instructed ministers to go to media houses and showcase what they've done. All right, just a few did it, some didn't do it. Now, another instruction is coming that whatever project they are doing must be scrutinized. What message does this pass to you and to Nigerians? Are we saying, well, we're getting back to the drawing board now, there is going to be a check and balance, the government is waking up?
That is where I will not buy the idea that Bureau for Public Procurement should take over the scrutiny of projects in Nigeria. We don't go back to history. There is something that happens in the Federal Capital when Major General Gardonasco was the minister. He saw what was happening within all the departments, and he established what we call the Project Implementation Task Force. And that brings down all levels of corruption. That was when a part of the Federal Secretariat project was revoked and given to another contractor. That was the part when the contract of USE 2 was revoked and was given to Julius Berger. That was the time that most of the projects in Abuja were revoked and were given to recompetent contractors, because some of them were paid 50% of a project that they have not even started. So there was a marching order from the minister, and the Project Implementation Task Force was able to mitigate against the corrupt sector. But giving a corrupt sector a task to be more corrupt, that is the only area I'm looking at. I'm not saying what the government or the Federal Executive Council has sit on is wrong, but it is a very nice step, but to a very wrong direction.
So as it is right now,
if they have built it and said, we are giving this tax to another independent body or another created body, I will not have any say to it. But there is nothing that has ever entered the Bureau of Public Procurement that they have ever rejected.
You have facts to that.
A lot of facts to it. Because I have never seen where a refrigerator in Nigeria is being sold for 5 million naira. But they have supplied a refrigerator approved by the Bureau for Public Procurement to an organization for 5 million naira.
A refrigerator?
Yes.
Maybe it depends on the size.
No matter the size, I saw the size.
All right.
So, if you are bringing such corrupt sector to scrutinize what? Scrutiny means total transparency. Total. Because if we want to go into procurement rules and processes, you go for the best of price, for a best of material. You understand me? Then you calculate logistics and supply models. It is only people who have not done what is called purchase and supply, who have not done logistics and management and administration, people who have not done financial management and procurement, that will come and tell you that, no, this is the way to follow. Then go to project management and the rest. These are the things that the Bureau for Public Procurement are supposed to be looking into, not coming to tell us about inflated prices.
So if you were the president and you really want to address this situation, what would you have done differently?
Of course, I'm not Mr. President, but to me, if we want to get to what is actually called Bureau for Public Procurement, there are so many things we have to look at that makes up procurement. Procurement did not say your handset is 250,000, and because you are supplying it, it should become 350,000. Procurement Act does not agree to that, because you are purchasing in bulk. By purchasing in bulk means that you have price relevancies. Then you look at logistics and supply. What is it in the international market and what is it in the local market, and what can we manufacture? Who are the manufacturers here, or who are the distributors, or who are the sole agents and the rest? Then you now look at, from that place where the price is founded, if the price is founded in Abuja or Lagos, what could be the cost of logistics to Sokoto? All this has to be put in place when you are forming your procurement. So a ton of iron rods cannot be 1 million naira. I am not telling somebody to supply a ton of iron rods for 5 million. It doesn't make any sense. So all this is to cut, the establishment was to cut cost. So from cutting of cost, we are having additional cost. It does not make the establishment relevant. Tell all contractors to supply, to bring up their invoice for forensic auditing and see how the same Bureau of Public Procurement gave them right to supply at that prices. Then you see the level of corruption I'm talking about. You find out that we have wasted billions, if not trillions of naira, approved by the same Bureau for Public Procurement. And you are giving the same tax to the same people to scrutinize our budget. It's not a welcome one. That means you are actually encouraging corruption. And that is what the nation is crying over.
Oh, all right. These are political office holders that we're talking about here. We've dwelt so much on the Bureau for procurement, public procurement. Now, let's get to the ministers themselves. What do you think about Nigerian ministers as it has to do with project execution?
When you have projects, executions, or not executing, you also know that the person who is executing and the person who is monitoring and the person who is evaluating are two different things. So let's look at the project evaluations. Who evaluates these projects? What is the role of a minister in different ministries? Then who are monitoring? These are the things you have to look at. One, staff of the ministries are the ones evaluating. They are the same people monitoring. The minister, by virtues of power, is just a special advisor to the president in that ministry. We have overblown the job of a minister. And that is why a minister is not a signatory to the account of the ministry. is just to implement the president's agenda. Is not an administrator, neither is he a manager. But here, we have taken a minister as an administrator and as a manager. And this has made a lot of cases. I laugh most of the time when people say they cannot even send these ministers to prison. You cannot send them to prison because of a reason. The reason is that they are not accountant administrators, they are not managers and administrators of the ministry. They are only entitled to some significant allowances. Nothing more. A minister is not the chairman of the tenders board. He has no role to play in the tenders committee. This is what we have seen. This is based on recommendation he has signed. He signed. Then here we allow them to have overriding power over the administration, the management. The people they are supposed to hold responsible are not being held responsible, which is permanent secretary, the directors. And the moment you talk, they tell you director's salary is this, the permanent secretary this. So they, because of self-aggrandizement and not knowing your position as a minister, the public servant or the civil servant, whatever way you call them, use the minister as a cover for their corrupt activities. And knowing where we are coming from, the moment such appointment is given to you, instead of standing by your rule to guide Mr. President, that is why they have the Federal Executive Council's meeting. You don't see permanent secretaries there. You don't see directors there. It is the minister. So the minister is supposed to be briefing in the Federal Executive Council. This is what we have done. You said so road should be completed in 2 years. We have gone to this extent. We have gone to this extent. You said this should be done. We have gone to this extent. We have gone to this extent. So if you are normally appointed as the Minister of Works and there is a project that there is a road construction project from Ekpe to East Side to Ijebu, your own is to, and it's supposed to be completed in 3 years, your own is to enter a vehicle, go through that road, know how many kilometers has been done, whether it is asphalt, lane, whether it's just earthwork that has been done. We have done earthwork to so extent. You go back. On the Federal Executive Council, you brief what has been done. That is just all.
That's the work of the minister.
That is supposed to be the work of a minister.
But we're having it in the reverse?
Yes.
So what's happening?
Yeah, somebody is sitting down somewhere who has been in the civil service payroll for 25 years, 30 years, now becoming a director, and you are bringing a minister who has never been in that ministry, who don't know the activities of the ministry and the rest. The second role of a minister is to say, sir, I have sensed this to be wrong. I need a policy framework to address this menace. The past minister couldn't address it, but I think it is significant for us to address it. So there is a policy framework. So apart from policy framework and such, nothing more a minister has to do. if it is a job of a minister to be administrator and manager, he will have also be an approver of payment. But these days, they have made them to approve payments. Minister has not approved so payment. Minister has nothing to do with payments. Minister has nothing to do with the account of the distance. All it do is that we needed funds for this, and approval is given by the same FEC. And as the money comes and how it is disbursed is not the business of the minister. So you go and meet a permanent secretary now in a ministry who will say, no, I have not gotten approval from the minister. What minister?
But the minister is the head. He's the head man there. He's the one in charge.
No, he's a political figure.
So what you said his assignment is just to supervise. That's what you said. That just
yes, and bring policy issues.
Bring policies.
Yes, that is just the job. You cannot go to any ministry today and they will tell you the chairman of the presidential, the ministerial tenders board is Mr. Minister, and he has to be there. A minister has nothing to do with that. He has no right to the funds. He doesn't know how the funds are being disbursed. Yes, you can write to him. He can intervene and say, permanent secretary, we are owing this person. Why haven't he been paid? You understand me? Because it is under his privy to ask why that person has not been paid. That is if there is any kind of consign or petition to him that I have done my job and I have not been paid. He can call the permanent secretary and say, why has this man not been paid? Because a funds has been disbursed for this payment. But not for his approval for payments. That is not part of his duties.
Okay, Prof. Let's talk about projects in Nigeria, because we've seen some cases where people, some maybe House of Rep member, maybe senators and some persons just go do a very small covert, and you see social media everywhere agog, display of some projects that are not even worth it at all. What do you, because you said something just now that the minister, people said ministers, they don't send ministers to court or prison as the case may be. Now, looking at...
that is, I said so because of their duties.
Okay, because they are not the one directly in charge of the finance.
Yes, because, okay, if you called me today and said, I've taken away 10 million naira, how? How? How did it go about? Because I'm not the chief accountant, the administrator or manager of the ministry. So how can you hold me responsible? So in the presence of the law and investigation and the mechanism of security, you cannot hold such person responsible because he's not in charge of the finances. Unless somebody is coming to allege that we gave him so amount as kickback or bribe, which is very rare in the Nigerian case, even when it happens. So we purposefully arrogate power to them, and they use it willfully. Then coming to the case of a House of Rep or Senate member, that is, build a covert and people celebrate. A lot of us in Nigeria live in ignorance. So any small thing or whatever thing you have done within some community have been taken more serious than expected. So we over glorify it.
But then a lot of Nigerians don't even know how to go about these things. The reason why I talked about the issue of project execution generally in Nigeria, there is this belief that majority of the projects are audio projects. They are not really carried out. All right. How did we get there, and what do you think should be done? Because it's part of the step the president is taking now. Maybe he's starting from the ministers. He may still extend it down to the senators and House of Representative members. But then, what do you think about project execution generally in Nigeria?
We are not even in problem yet. We are not facing difficulties yet. I can see the way people are celebrating AI in Nigeria today. When we expand to AI generation, that is where we will have problem. Where we will start advertising what is not in existence at all. We look at things we are not supposed to go into. Those are the things we want to. For now, we are not ready, set for some. That is where those are the things we want to implement. They forget that when we leave the AI generation, artificial intelligence, entirely, we are going to nanotechnology, and nanotechnology will even give us the worst.
After AI, we'll go into nanotechnologies.
Yes. I have a master's in nanotechnology since about when people they have not started talking about nanotechnology so many years ago. So when you go to nanotechnology, you will know that AI is playing. And that is any politician in Nigeria that has any idea on AI and nanotechnology would know that we'll do anything to convince anybody.
But the people at the constituency will cry out to say, well, these things were seen, they are not real.
You can only cry out when you have the power to cry. How many people in the constituencies has a close tie with the media?
Unlike before, I think now they do.
No,
because of the advent
they don't. They no
social media
longer believe in the people. Don't believe in the media. The media has to top up their game for people to believe in them.
Why do you say so?
Okay. If you see AI itself, the way we are sounding AI in Nigeria without no policy framework will make the media goes down. The confident people impose on the media will go down. Unless the media itself up their game. Because if you go to some community, I will just tell you for free, when they see something on set, I beg, they pay them to say it. It's only people who have some pedigree. When they speak, they will say, no, we can listen to this one. But the other ones, they will say, no, he has already been paid. Don't you know him? He was former this, he was former chairman, he was former this. He just came, get paid to speak.
All right.
And if you look at it very well, you see a lot of challenges. I would talk of somebody who has served as a minister and a deputy governor. There's something he said in the media, and people said, please, it was even in the village, one of the villages, when I went to visit somebody and it was online. And the person just said, he was a minister, he couldn't do anything. He was a deputy governor, he couldn't do anything. He should just tell us he's looking for a position, a new position. Finish. So you don't look at the man in the village these days to strongly believe in everything that the press gives.
All right. Let's look at alternatives now, because you seem to be faulting the channel. All right. That's the Bureau for Public Procurement, which is meant to scrutinize the projects of these ministers. Now, this is what it is. What do you think, apart from, if not Bureau of Procurement, what else do you think can be done to checkmate the activities of ministers as it has to do with project and other of the assignments that they are supposed to carry out? Because now, as it is, to whom much is given, much is expected.
I don't think there's any much to be expected from me from the Bureau for Public Procurement. No.
Even the ministers
if
now.
They have to extend it to establishing a body.
An independent body.
Yes, calling it Project Implementation Task Force or Project Monitoring or Presidential Monitoring Committee or something like that. Something that will not live forever or exist forever, because most of these bodies, we establish them, they are not supposed to live forever. So you make them bodies that become very permanent. And when you make them permanent, they become bodies that become powerless. From permanent to powerless.
Double P.
Yes. So that is what happens to all the agencies, parastatals and the rest. If you look at most of them, as you call them, I will tell you where their lapses are.
All right.
They could be very active. They are very active from the beginning, running the activities the way it's supposed to go. But the moment they find out that they have become a permanent structure, they are more corrupt than expected.
All right. They are more corrupt than expected. Well, I think from what you've said so far, it means another external body should just be set up to carry out this assignment, because like you said, you gave an example of a refrigerator, meaning you spoke out of experience at some point. Well, I wish time could actually permit us to talk more, but this is how much time will actually allow us to go ahead with this conversation. So we'll put a stop to it right here, but then we'll keep our fingers crossed to see how it will go with the ministers. So between the ministers and the Bureau for Public Procurement. Thank you very much, Prof, for joining us on this Global Morning conversation.
Thank you, and thank you, viewers.
All right, this is going to be the size of this second conversation. Global Morning will come to an end after this break. Stay with us.
quite an interesting time here. It has been the last almost 3 hours. Thank you so very much, everyone, for joining us on Global Morning today. I'm Uyi Agumofwebe.
And I am Ramsey Enoch Abu. Thanks for joining us.